the Black Table program, which was a failed program by the company that was once called Zetegrity, owned by RIP Troy Mason, the founder of the Z Black Card, and one of the people that got me into network marketing in the past. I don't want to say too much negative about him because he's no longer with us. This is just to explain that now that I have the resources and the connections, how you could build your own Black Table holding company. At the time, this program was designed to set you up an entity and get you, say, $1.5 to $2.5 million in corporate credit, and then later build you much more by setting up your shares in a way that they would be valuable to investors. This is why I think I do this channel, because learning from my mistakes, you could save money. A lot of money. Later, it started off, they needed 10 grand to do this. And it ended up being only 5. You could do this with 5 grand. You could set up your own entity, even with a law firm involved, for about 5 grand. Build this up so you could get 1.5 to 2.5, possibly more later on. And Derek Whitehead talks about this, but he talks about going in and buying a shelf corp, which is not needed. Shelf corp is not needed in my opinion. And the shelf corp that Derek Whitehead is talking about selling to you guys, they're like $15K. You could take that $15K and put it into your entity, and you won't need to do that. You don't need to buy a shelf corp. And that's kind of like the Black Table program. It started out, they were using shelf corps as well. Again, not needed. The only thing you need now, this is through trial by error. I'm not gonna lie, I made a lot of mistakes in the past, but now I have the connections and the knowledge, because I'm working on my own now, and it's gonna take me time, and I'll even tell you how I'm gonna fund it. You'll be able to do this on your own with 5 grand, just 5 grand. You don't have to pay anybody else other than maybe a law firm or filing company to pay your state and federal fees to set up your entity. That might be all you need. Now, the components you're going to need is, before you set up this organization, I would find, other than yourself, I would say 2 to 4 people that you're going to bring aboard a part of this entity. Because corporations with the odd number, make it an odd number of members, so 4 including you, that's 5 members. You could do it with 3, so you and 2 other members. I would not make them family members. And I'll tell you why. Family members usually have the same last name. If you can find family members that don't have the same last name, like cousins or even friends, it'll work. But try to find 2 to 4 members other than yourself that don't have the same last name. So when you set up your articles, it doesn't look like everybody's related, if that makes sense. This is going to make you look bigger to banks. And Derek Whitehead talks about this. I agree with everything Derek Whitehead talks about, other than you need a shelf court. You don't need a shelf court. Now, one or all individuals should have decent credit. Preferably, I would say 700 or above. Now, you could get away with just one member having 700 credit score, because once you start getting lines of business credit, you're going to see that you could go back now using AI. There's an AI platform that I could tell you about later that you could repair your own credit. So one person needs good credit as a part of your organization. Usually when you set up your articles, there's 5 directors. There's usually president, vice president, secretary, or treasurer. Somewhere in there is just another form of director. You being the one that's probably designing this, you could pick yourself as president, or if you decide, pick another member. Now, the reason why you want more than just yourself, you need a government body to make this look legitimate. If you set up this is a C Corp, by the way, not an LLC. C Corps are more fundable once you get to the level of, you can get funding for LLC, but once you get to the point where you take this public or you sell it, they prefer C Corps. That's the reason why I'm saying a C Corp. You could do an LLC, get some funding, and go build this holding company later. But I say do it up. If you have the $5,000 to spare, just do the C Corp. Now, what kind of businesses should you start? Something low risk. Banks don't want to see real estate high risk. They don't want to see, even though it's my preferred business, transportation, they don't want to see transportation. Remember, this is your holding company. You want it low risk as possible. I would say something online, and I would say not necessarily e-com, because e-commerce is not necessarily high risk, but I wouldn't take that code. I would take like a low risk code like software publisher. I wouldn't do something generic like management or business services. Too generic. They want to know specifically, what do you do? Software publisher could cover web design, SEO, e-com. It could cover all of the online businesses, but it sounds specific. You're going to build a software for service later. They like technology. Banks prefer technology. That's why I would say, remember, this is your holding company. You could do other things later to bring in money. Now you have your 3 people. One of them has at least a 700 credit score. You're going to PG your first few lines of credit for the business. I say someone with a 700 credit score, right out the gate, you could probably get anywhere from 150 to 250 and spendable either lines of credit, loans, or credit cards. immediately when you get your first round of funding, go into credit repair for all of the members. Remember, that's chump change. This platform I'm talking about is like $30-$40 a month. Now that you have your first round of fundable credit, go in and build something. I can give you an idea because I can tell you what I'm building. I'm going to build a platform that showcases all of the 8 years of content that I've been creating. Put it on an OTT platform, and it'll have my website. It'll basically be all my video content. That is good enough for the banks to see that you're doing something. And then later you can go to ChatGPT, build a GPT, very easy. There's videos about it on YouTube. That is more than enough to prove to the banks that you are a software publisher. You have video content and you have your own GPT. Very doable, very easy. You don't have to be techie to do this. Now everybody's starting to get good credit. 6 months later, the next person goes in, gets another 150 to 250 and spendable corporate credit. Now, while you're doing this, you should be buying things that could bring in money. You got your platform, you should be selling that. You should be marketing that. My platform, I'm probably going to start out only charging $10 a month. I might move that up to like $50 a month after like a year. You should be every day building content, using YouTube as a traffic source, marketing that. But you could do other things to bring in money, physical money, daily, like gig economy. If you have a job and your job pays your bill, go out and do gig economy. Have that money go to your business account. Another thing, for your software publishing company, it should be a generic name. Don't complicate this. What I did like about Troy is Zetegrity was a generic name. He took the word integrity and turned it into Zetegrity. Do something very generic. Later on, he did change his name because that company got a bad name, but his original company, Zetegrity, was a nice generic name. It works. Do not use your last name. Don't do consulting on the end. Don't do real estate on the end. Nothing high risk. You could do a spin on your last name, but I would not do your physical last name. Remember, you're just a software company. Make it generic as possible. Something that's not used, obviously. I'll give you an example. One of my YouTube channels, you can check it out. It's called Shania Business. I looked up the word Shania, Chaniya. It just means wealthy in Swahili. And then I just added business on the end. Generic. Nobody's copied that. I could trademark that later if I wanted to. Very easy, very doable. That's how you want to name your business. Generic. Don't use that one, but come up with your own generic name. Now, this is even better if you have your 4 other members other than you, because now you have up to 5 people that could build rounds of credit to the point in 6 months you could be looking at easily $500,000 to $1 million in just credit cards. Now is when you go to those companies that Troy and the Black Table program were supposed to do. There are companies out there Derek Whitehead talks about them too, that you could go to their big corporations. They, on your behalf, could go after the big funding, the investors, the crowdfunding. They could go after the big money, where they could go literally get $100K from each investor using your stock certificate. Each member could get, and they will have, the legal wording, the stock certificate to give to these investors. And now you can either start looking at going public or selling the business, which I would not sell personally until you already started another company. Now the company doesn't have to make a lot of money, because remember, you're building this, like Derek Whitehead talks about, you're building this to get money. So if you're depositing literally $5,000 a month between 3 to 5 people into your business account, that's more than enough. No one's gonna take a check until after you've accumulated at least a couple $100,000 in spendable money and assets. Then I would look at cutting each member a small check to make it look good. And when I say very small check, just enough to possibly live on. I would say even below that, really. I'm thinking like $300 to $500 a month. A week. $300 to $500 a week, which is probably considered a part-time job in most places. Cut yourself a check where each member has at least a part-time job wage, $15 to $20 an hour in my state. And this is so you don't touch the investment money. Leave it in the business. Only buy cars and real estate and other assets that could bring value to the business. Now, I would only invest in cars if you can make money with those cars. Like me, I'm thinking buying vehicles that you can rent out. Now you don't have to be running around doing Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, because you're making money daily. You should be charging these people $100 to $200 a day to rent your vehicles. I'm not thinking mega luxury. I'm not thinking Ferraris or nothing like that. I'm thinking maybe Mercedes, BMWs. And when I say Mercedes, I'm talking like the cheaper Mercedes, the older BMWs. Instead of buying a 2025 BMW, go get a couple 2020s. Rent them out. Use them for yourself only if they're making money. Register them under the business, so all the liabilities off you. And I would even, remember, this is a holding company. So I would not own any cars directly under the corporation. I would set up a LLC under the corporation to hold ownership of the cars, a separate LLC to own ownership over the real estate. That's owned by the corporation. So the corporation could have 1, 2, 3 LLCs that own different assets. If you're going to buy Bitcoin, set up a separate LLC, have all the Bitcoin and investments set up under that. Later, you could consider getting a 401k for you and the employees if the money's there. Go after grants, which at this point should be easier. Somebody should be designated just to go after funding. Somebody should spend their entire day in your organization literally doing nothing but going after funding, that would be definitely me. But you pick who that is in your organization. Somebody's got to work. I understand that. But if you can, pay at least one person to just literally go in, look for more funding every day, funding. And the business should be generating money. Gig economy, you can rent cars, you can buy one property, possibly that you all can live and work in, move out of those expensive apartments where rent keeps going up, and now you're saving money. You can literally buy a 1-2 family investment property. You guys can live on one floor, share, become roommates if you really want to save, so that somebody renting the apartment downstairs or upstairs is paying the mortgage. Now you're saving money. In no time, I would say in 1 to 2 years, and the Black Table program was supposed to get you like millions within 2 years' time, just doing rounds of funding. Every 6 months, you go in and get, but you could go in more often than 6 months because what? It's not just you. And then you'll see that after everybody's done a round of funding, you don't have to guarantee anymore. No personal guarantees anymore. Because what? You built your DUNS number. You built your Equifax business. You built your Experian business to the point where the business itself will be good enough score where you can literally go in and be like, yeah, I need another car. We need more funding for this. Because your DUNS, your Experian business looks so good. Everything should be paid on time. I would have multiple accounts with different banks. I would never put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to banking. I would have a fintech bank. I would have a good credit union, not just Native Federal. There's plenty of credit unions out there that if you join a nonprofit, you could get into the credit union in that state. There's a good 5 of them off the top of my head that you could get funding from. I would go watch the Credit Plug YouTube channel. Why the Credit Plug? Because all he does is talk about getting funding. He has a company too that does credit repair, but it's a little pricey. That's why I probably wouldn't use his company. I would use the AI software platform that I'm talking about. And only reason why I'm not sharing that now is I want to use my affiliate code and give that out. But you got to always be thinking affiliate marketing on your YouTube side. All the members in your organization should have a TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, social media, and they should be marketing the main company. You guys can have your own little things and your own little separate businesses, but you should be branded and marketing your main company. That's all you should do. And even though you got the code of the NAICS code of software publisher, you can make this a marketing agency even. You make this brand this a marketing agency. At some point, you can get a retail location. But now you built your own Black Table corporation that's a holding company. Literally, you started with $5,000. You could even start with zero. Well, I wouldn't say zero because you had to at least pay the initial law firm or filing company, you're talking maybe $2,000. That's why I say $5,000, which we gave to Troy's company at the time, was literally wasted money. I'm saying it. I hate to say it. It was literally wasted money that each one of us could have took, built our own C Corp, had multiple LLCs under it. Now, here's the beauty part about all this. Every LLC that you built under your C Corp, you can now start building corporate credit for each one of those companies. The one that controls holding the cars is great for going after gas cards with Visa and logos. The one that does real estate, there's certain institutions that will rent to people that are buying property. That could go get lines of credit for that. The one that does investments, I'm sure you can find some vehicle where you can borrow money, so you're using other people's money to build your business. Once you take this public, you literally can stay on the board of directors. You can now hire a professional CEO, CFO, COO, and literally be on the board, and you guys make the final say in what the corporation's move is next. And collect a check for, at some point, you could be looking at a 6-figure check for each member, as well as pay your executives a decent wage. $20, $30 an hour for them to make decisions and manage all your operations. I would say, maybe I'm just money hungry, but I would say if it's 3 to 5 of you, each one of you pick a vehicle in the chain and you manage it. Like I might want to manage the main operations of the C Corp. Somebody else might want to manage the transportation company. Someone else can manage the investment vehicle, the one that goes after different assets. And they might be just the one that also looks for money, looks for new avenues for money. You might have one that specializes in real estate. He just manages that branch or that LLC that looks at good deals. That's all he does, looks for good deals. Bring it back to the board. You literally sit down and have a meeting once a week. You stop what you're doing, you pick a day once a week, you sit down and you go over what you're doing to build a company. Mine would definitely be somewhere in the marketing. And this could just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And if you're wondering, I am working on mine. Don't worry about me. I'm working on mine. You know, I'm working on a operational company, which is transportation, and I'm also working on a holding company. But I'm trying to use other people's money. You know, and I'm also working on my credit score. It's just a matter of time before I get 4 other smart individuals that want to come aboard and be like, yo, Will, I want to do this all in with you. When I find those individuals, we're going to put our heads together and just blow this up. If I don't find those individuals, the beauty is I can hire them. I can go out and find 2 individuals, hire them, and put them on this. This is how you're going to build your own black table holding company with only $5,000 to start. A lot of you are listening to this, and a lot of people aren't going to take action. So I'm not worried about competition. I would say probably over the years, out of everybody that sees this video, maybe only one or two of you actually takes action and be like, yo, maybe if you're actually in the black table, you were one of those people that gave Troy 5, some people gave him 10 grand, and you got nothing from it but an entity. Sit down, really think about this. Start building your black table holding company today. You don't have to pay anybody other than the filing company. Like, I think it's called Busy, formerly Inkfile. Or, if you really want this set up legit, pay a law firm. I know a law firm that you may have to spend $500 to $750 to set up your initial entity, plus your state fees. The only place you're going to get hit hard with state fees is New York and California. Everywhere else is going to be pretty reasonable. And you're going to set this up in the state you live. You are. Or the main person that's setting this up. Set it up in your state. And you don't have to necessarily register your business in every state. You're just going to set this up in your initial state. And you're going to have bank account, multiple bank accounts. You probably will have a different bank account for every entity to make it easier to manage. And I didn't learn this overnight. I'm not going to lie to you guys, it took years. And I had a brick and mortar business, and I had no knowledge of this. I had a brick and mortar business for 3 years when I had a cell phone store. And if somebody like me would have came to me and be like, Will, you got the physical location. Let me partner with you and let's do this, this, and this, I would have done it. But I had nobody like me. And I had the physical location. There was no YouTube yet, but I had a physical location back in '98, and I lasted till about 2001. Man, if I can go back in time with the knowledge I have now, I would be a multi-millionaire. That's how much knowledge I didn't have. But let's not cry over spilled milk. Let's move on. I will have information about myself as well as what I'm doing below. If you want to contact me or get on my list, and let's make some things happen. This has been Will Blandon, corporate hustler, nice guy driver, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Subscribe, like, comment, click that bell icon, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Thank you. R.I.P. Troy Mason.